Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Soul Land 2 Peerless Tangmen based on novel. So let's start. Even among Shrek's 7 monsters, Bei was the only one who knew about his 6th soul skill. After years of tireless cultivation, he also understood that Xuanwu hadn't waited for his 7th soul skill, but completed his control of the Xuanwu through his 6th soul skill. It was his greatest trump card. In Xuanwu's domain, he was able to fully use his Xuanwu shield. At the same time, the strength of the Xuanwu shield would be greatly increased in Xuanwu's domain. In this domain, all of Xuanwu's abilities would increase by 100%. Of course, Xuanwu's domain required a lot of soul power to maintain. As it enhanced him, the domain would also suppress the opponent. This suppression was on 2 levels, both spiritual and physical. The Xuanwu was a divine aquatic beast. As a result, an enemy would face the suppression of water in Xuanwu's domain. Long Aotian could already feel it. The air disappeared, and everything around him turned very thick. He couldn't breathe, and the water pressure was rising. With Xuanwu's current cultivation, his enemies would have to handle water pressure and resistance equivalent to a depth of 20 meters. This was the home ground of the eternal defense, Xuanwu. Long Aotian nodded gently as he looked at Xuanwu, and even gave him a thumbs up. Those who were strong often developed admiration for one another. However, Long Aotian's eyes shone very brightly at this moment. A silver projection rose behind his back. The last time it had appeared, it had done so to resist Yama's invitation. Long Aotian's body jerked, and he forced the water pressure around him away. His 5th black soul ring shone at this point. His body lit up in a burning white flame, like he had set himself on fire. His 4th soul skill was the Berserk God Slash. His 5th soul skill was named the Transformation of Heaven and Earth. Long Aotian began to spin in place like a drill, his body completely contorted. As he spiraled rapidly, he started to rise. The water pressure of Xuanwu's domain was forced away by his spiraling motion. Even though Xuanwu used all his strength to suppress his opponent, he could only watch as Long Aotian gained altitude. Right now, Long Aotian's aura was very dangerous. Huo Yuhao could tell that Long Aotian was finally at his strongest state. Second awakening of his body-soul, unity of heaven and man, and soul skills. All 3 had come together. Xuanwu was only a soul emperor. His Xuanwu's domain wasn't strong enough to completely trap this opponent. Long Aotian used his domineering abilities to drive himself out of Xuanwu domain. He escaped the domain, and instantly shot into the sky. Of course, this was also because there weren't any restrictions on the height of the venue. If they had followed the rules of the last tournament, it wouldn't have been possible for him to launch himself into the sky. Long Aotian was like a huge ball of incandescent light as he rose into the sky. After he rocketed more than 100 meters up, he suddenly stopped. The ball of burning light turned and then plummeted down with an unstoppable and ferocious momentum. Unity of heaven and man, transformation of heaven and earth. This was the true meaning behind this strike. As he saw this, Huo Yuhao finally gained an understanding of Long Aotian's abilities. When Long Aotian chose to use his soul skills, his impressive fighting techniques gave his attacks incredible explosive power. Long Aotian's 1st and 3rd soul skills were used to strengthen himself. The purpose of the rest was to increase his destructive power to the limit. The strength of his current attack was already comparable to the attack of an 8-ringed soul doluo. Every time a soul master advanced to the next level, the difference from his previous level was substantial. The higher one advanced, the more obvious the difference would be. Although Long Aotian was extremely gifted, he must have had sacrificed a lot in order to become a soul sage. He had also suffered a lot, and he was the only one who knew just how much. He hadn't had a childhood, but instead sacrificed everything for his cultivation to achieve what he was today. Even so, he had only just become a soul sage. Although he had only just become a soul sage, he had managed to increase his destructive power to the level of a soul doluo without using his martial soul true body. His abilities were truly extraordinary. Many soul masters' soul skills were named after meteors. However, Long Aotian's current attack was more like a real meteor. Xuanwu drifted in his own domain and had a stern look on his face. He lifted his Xuanwu's shield up high, and black light surged out. The entire domain started to revolve rapidly. It was like a black whirlpool was being generated. The transformation of heaven and earth came crashing down. When it charged into the domain, it even caused white smoke to surface. The domain seemed to react to this attack like a living being. It quickly rose, revolved, attenuated, and diverted Long Aotian's attack. It was attempting to suppress the violent assault. At this instant, Xuanwu did something no one expected. Black light flashed, and someone else switched places with him. There was no way he could lock onto Long Aotian in that state, and thus he was naturally not the one being switched over. There was only one other person apart from Xuanwu and Long Aotian on the stage. I concede defeat. Referee, please protect me. Xuanwu appeared on one side of the stage. He was even shouting shamelessly. Xuanwu's domain quickly subsided. The transformation of heaven and earth that was being suppressed also blew apart. Boom. It was an unprecedented explosion, a mushroom cloud even formed. Heaven and earth were transformed. The protective barriers around the stage shone extremely brightly, forced into their strongest defensive mode. A white barrier opened up, and the white light that struck the barrier was dispelled by the intense undulations generated by the barrier. The impact in this direction was also the smallest. As he resisted Long Aotian's attack, Jingzhon's jaw was clenched so hard he almost broke his teeth. That bastard! How dare he use me? However, he had no other choice now. Xuanwu was most cunning in the way he had conceded defeat. At the same time he switched places with Jingzhon. There wasn't anything wrong in being protected by the referee after conceding defeat. The transformation of heaven and earth suppression of his domain wasn't enough to let Long Aotian lock onto him, and so gave him an opportunity to use the mysterious underworld displacement. Xuanwu and Bei Bei had already planned it out earlier. They could rely on Huo Yuhao's 2 victories in the individual elimination round. With those 2 victories, the Tang sect could request that they enter the team round as long as they won one more individual elimination round. This also meant that they only needed to defeat Long Aotian. However, they didn't have to be impatient about it. Even if they didn't win this round, they still had 5 more opportunities. Bei Bei, Wang Donga, and He Kai-tu had yet to compete. That was why Xuanwu's aim was very simple: probe the abilities of his opponent and deplete him at the same time. He just needed to conserve his own strength for the team round. Xuanwu's domain had been unleashed, and the Xuanwu shield had evolved and mutated. Xuanwu had been extremely high-spirited. Almost everyone thought that he was going to fight all out with Long Aotian. Long Aotian had also believed that, and used his strongest strike. Who knew that Xuanwu would be so shameless, and switch with the referee before conceding defeat? Even though Huo Yuhao had countless fighting strategies, he couldn't use shameless tactics like Xuanwu. The explosion lasted for 7 to 8 seconds before it ended. The spectators were horrified to see a huge depression in the center of the stage that spanned more than 50 meters in diameter. Only the area that the unbreakable Doluor had protected was in better shape. The depth of the depression couldn't be seen from beneath the stage. However, those on the main stage could tell that it was 5 meters deep. The stage was actually made of high-quality granite reinforced with steel plates. How strong did the impact have to be in order to form this huge depression? The watching Jing Hongchen's expression also changed greatly at this point. Even though Xiao Hongchen and Long Aotian both had 7 rings, he knew that Long Aotian was definitely superior to Xiao Hongchen. This also meant that the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy would have also faced trouble if they had advanced and met the Snow Demon sect. Long Aotian appeared at the core of the explosion. He was half kneeling on the ground, his hair flowing on both sides of his head. Right now, he resembled a god of war. Long Aotian's expression was very dismal as he slowly got up. His face was pale as he looked at Xuanwu, who was looking over curiously. He furiously shouted, "Why didn't you dare to fight me?" Xuanwu leisurely said, "It's not that I don't dare to, it's that I don't want to. Why must I fight all out with you? Coward." Long Aotian said coldly. "You're not fit to be my opponent." Xuanwu laughed. "That's funny. You've fried your brain from cultivating too much. For such a fellow like you without any strategy, I don't think you'll become anything successful in the future. A real strong individual must be fine up here." He tapped his own head meaningfully. Long Aotian's aura was a little unbalanced. His monstrous attack had depleted a lot of his energy, and even caused his previous injury to relapse. There was a prickling pain between his chest and belly. The Snow Demon sect wins. The unbreakable Doluor glared at Xuanwu. Before he could say more, Xuanwu had already jumped off from the stage. He didn't want to be cursed at. Long Aotian leapt out of the depression. He looked coldly towards the Tang sect in their waiting area and said, "Next." He's indeed very strong. Bei Bei was very impressed. Long Aotian had defeated both Huo Yuhao and Xuanwu consecutively, and acted as if nothing had happened. He even asked for the next competitor to take the stage. His abilities were indeed extraordinary. In the Snow Demon sect's waiting area, Princess Wei Na suddenly stood up and said to the unbreakable Doluo, "Referee, can we request that the stage be repaired, now that it's in such bad shape? Otherwise, the spectators won't be able to watch the upcoming fights." Indeed, most of the stage had been destroyed. The center of the stage had turned into a huge hole and looked extremely battered. There was no way to fight on such a stage. However, time was needed to repair the stage. This would undoubtedly be very beneficial for the Snow Demon sect. Long Aotian had been greatly depleted. He could use that time to recover slightly, and continue the individual elimination rounds. He might be able to defeat the whole of the Tang sect on his own. Princess Wei Na was very clever. Bei Bei also stood up and said to the referee, "The stage is indeed badly damaged. However, there shouldn't be any rest time in the individual elimination rounds, according to the rules. The Snow Demon sect just won the previous fight. If repairs are carried out now, it'll be very unfair to us. Please deal with this issue fairly." Xuanwu's previous antics left Jing Zhon extremely unimpressed with the Tang sect. However, Xu Tianran had personally paid him a visit before this semifinal round. Although the Tang sect knew many things, the Sun Moon Empire was also aware of these things, since they were the one who had organized this tournament. Many things also became more and more obvious as the tournament reached the quarterfinals. To the Sun Moon Empire, the rise of the Tang sect was indeed a threat. However, the Tang sect's threat to them had to be calculated alongside that of Shrek Academy. However, the Body sect was an even greater threat, considering how they had attacked the illustrious Virtue Hall before. There was deep hatred towards the Body sect in the Sun Moon Empire. Given a choice, the Empire would be more inclined towards the Tang sect, though it would be best if both teams suffered greatly to pave the way for the Holy Ghost sect. He would rather let the Holy Ghost sect win and invite condemnation than to let Shrek or the Body sect become the champions of this tournament. Xu Tianran had the intention of starting a war after this tournament was over. He wasn't afraid of criticism from the three empires of the continent. As a result, Jing Zhon wouldn't stand on the Snow Demon sect's side, even though he was irked by Xuanwu. The stage is indeed greatly damaged. To continue the tournament and to ensure fairness, I'll personally ensure that the stage is level. The tournament shall continue. Tang sect, please send up your third competing member." As he spoke, Jing Zhon swiped his right hand, and a ball of white light as large as a human head flew out. Under his control, this ball of light let out a white glow. It spread out over the stage, quickly engulfing the entire surface. As the white light glowed, the damaged stage seemed to be covered by an extra layer of light. The toughness and durability of this layer were shocking. Long Aotian's expression also changed, as he couldn't recognize what class of soul tool Jing Zhon was using. Crown Prince Xu Tianran nodded slightly and revealed a smile on his face. The unbreakable Doluo is indeed very adaptable. Yes, I want them to continue fighting. Princess Wei Na furrowed her brow. She turned to the Tang sect and said, "My friends, can we negotiate a little?" Bei Bei stood up and smiled at Princess Wei Na. He said, "Your Highness, please tell us what you want." Wei Na smiled and said, "Although it's regrettable that we're fighting each other in this tournament, I'd like to say that our sect respects the Tang sect very much. Both our sects have obtained 2 victories as of now. No matter who wins today, the winner still has to continue to compete against the enemy in the final. My suggestion is, let's enter the team round right now. What do you think?" When she referred to the final, she specifically used the word enemy. Although she wasn't loud, the Holy Ghost sect in the resting area could definitely hear her. Immediately, a few men in black stood up. However, their leader, the mysterious lady in black, gestured to them and they sat back down. Bei Bei pondered for a moment before saying, "All right, we are willing to go with your idea. Let's enter the team round then, to decide the victor." Bei Bei had thought about it for a moment, and realized that the Snow Demon sect wouldn't gain any advantage over them even if they entered the team round right now. While Long Aotian was strong, he was also greatly depleted after fighting 2 consecutive times. In addition, Chen Lu couldn't fight right now. This meant that the Snow Demon sect was fighting them with only 6 people. On the Tang sect side, Huo Yuhao had quickly restored his soul power. The time he was afforded when Xuanwu fought Long Aotian had enabled him to mostly recover. After both parties finished their negotiation, they quickly proposed their idea to the unbreakable Doluo. Wei Na also jumped up on the stage immediately and came up beside Long Aotian. A snow lotus in full bloom appeared in front of her chest. A gentle glow shone down on Long Aotian as she helped restore him. While Long Aotian was the strongest in the Snow Demon sect, Wei Na was the real brains behind the entire team. She could judge things for herself. Long Aotian was depleted after fighting 2 consecutive times. However, she knew him well enough to know that he wasn't in bad shape. This senior of hers was a fanatic. At this point, his fighting will had increased to its peak. The only thing troubling him was his earlier injuries. At this point, treating his injuries would greatly help restore his fighting strength. Even though his soul power had been depleted, his opponents were also depleted, just like him. The members of both teams ascended to the stage. Wang Donga pushed Huo Yuhao, while Bei Bei and Xuanwu walked shoulder to shoulder in front of the entire team. Long Aotian's gaze turned sharp again as he saw Xuanwu ascending the stage. He snorted furiously. He had nothing but contempt for Xuanwu now. Xuanwu wasn't bothered. He placed one hand on Bei Bei's shoulder, and even seemed a little delighted. See. This is how impressive a defense-type soul master is. We are naturally talented in developing hatred. Bei Bei smiled and replied, "You are right. You are very right. You have a mocking face." Xuanwu was infuriated. "Bei Bei, how dare you say that I deserve to be beaten up?" Bei Bei acted innocent. "I didn't say that. You said it yourself." As they squabbled like this, the tense atmosphere around Shrek's 7 monsters suddenly relaxed. Bei Bei gestured towards Huo Yuhao as he placed his right hand behind his back. Huo Yuhao knew what was going on. Both teams formed a row in the center of the stage. Indeed, Chen Lu wasn't competing. The Snow Demon sect, or rather the Body sect, only had 6 members, led by Long Aotian. Long Aotian was in front of everyone else. Princess Wei Na was behind him, followed by Wang Yangfeng and the rest of the team. The spectators had beheld a great show watching the first few individual elimination rounds, especially when they witnessed Long Aotian's unrivaled abilities, and Xuanwu's domain. Both were unprecedented so far in the tournament. Right now, the most intense team round was about to start. The spectators were cheering excitedly, and their fervor was rising. Competing members from both parties, please report your names. Tang sect, Bei Bei. Tang sect, He Kai-tu. Tang sect, Xuanwu. Tang sect, Jiang Nan Nan. Tang sect, Xiao Xiao. Tang sect, Huo Yuhao. Tang sect, Wang Donga. After Bei Bei returned as the team leader, Shrek's 7 monsters naturally reported their names according to their seniority. On the other side, Snow Demon sect, Long Aotian. Snow Demon sect, Wei Na. Snow Demon sect, Wang Yangfeng. Snow Demon sect, Jiyu Tong. Snow Demon sect, Jiang Ishi. Snow Demon sect, Chen Yu. Apart from the first 3 familiar faces, there were 3 other members from the Snow Demon sect. Jiyu Tong was a slender young man with a very delicate appearance. He even seemed a little shy. However, his eyes were especially bright. Jiang Ishi was a woman. Her appearance was more ordinary, but her figure was very good. Huo Yuhao first noticed her hands when he observed her. They were bound to capture attention. Her hands were smooth and long, even longer than most men taller than her. Her palms were white and smooth, while her skin was radiating a golden glow. It was obvious that her martial soul was her hands. The young man named Chen Yu had a well-developed figure. However, he was strangely hunchbacked. His body curled up slightly, but the look in his eyes was very sharp. Both teams lined up in 2 rows as they observed each other. Xingzhong said, "From the individual elimination round to the team round, all of you would normally have had some rest. However, this rest time will be voided since the individual elimination rounds weren't fully completed and no team attained 3 victories. The team round is about to start. Both teams, please take up your positions and prepare to fight." The members of both teams quickly retreated. They were all very experienced, and had fought alongside their teammates countless times. They didn't need to arrange any additional fighting strategies, and neatly retreated to their own positions. It was a little weird, as they were standing on the layer of light the unbreakable Doluor had created. It didn't feel very tough below them, but it wasn't soft, either. There was only a springy sensation. As he retreated, Xuanwu said, "Leave Long Aotian to me. Doesn't he want to fight all out against me? I'll do exactly that against him." Bei Bei nodded and said, "End it quickly. Yuhao, command us." "All right." Huo Yuhao didn't stand on ceremony either. As a control-type soul master with spiritual detection, no one was more suitable than him to control the entire situation. Very soon, both teams were lined up at their respective sides of the stage. Xingzhong took a deep breath, a slightly complex look on his face. These kids were able to make it so intense in the individual elimination rounds. I wonder what it'll be like in this team round. Anyway, His Highness also told me to let them suffer as much as possible. I shall be less strict in this team round, and let them fight more freely. On the other side, Wei Na also instructed her teammates with a few words. After hearing her words, even Long Aotian seemed to calm down. Both parties, please be prepared. Team round, begin. Xingzhong swung his right arm down to announce that the match had officially begun. Both teams' formations immediately changed. Long Aotian stood at the Snow Demon Sect's vanguard, while Wang Yangfeng and Ji Yutong stood to either side of him. Jiang Yishi and Chen Yu stood behind them at their sides, the five of them forming a sharp triangle formation. This was an offensive formation, and since Princess Wei Na was their auxiliary type soul master, so she was positioned behind this triangle. Long Aotian was in front of her, and this meant her defense was practically impregnable. The Tang sect's formation immediately transformed as well. Xuanwu and Bei Bei charged forward side by side, and Jiang Nannan disappeared behind Xuanwu in a flash. At least, her opponents couldn't see her from the front. Xiao Xiao and He Kaitu followed behind Xuanwu and Bei Bei. Wang Donga extended her wings. She actually left Huo Yuhao behind as she soared into the air, and flew forward about 2 meters above everyone else, maintaining reach with both the sky and the ground. Huo Yuhao was the one who surprised their adversaries the most. Huo Yuhao didn't make a move immediately. Instead, he raised his right hand in the air, and the large starlight sapphire ring on his finger sparkled as an enormous metal sphere appeared in front of him. The metal sphere looked like a giant porcupine. There were a large number of cannon barrels on its surface, and it had 8 thick metal legs. These metal legs were arranged around the metal sphere, and stuck close to it as they moved stably along the ground. Huo Yuhao tapped lightly on its surface with his right hand, and a bright light ray flew out from his forehead, as he seized the opportunity to rise into the air. The little snow lady flew out behind him and pushed him along. They entered the enormous metal sphere. Several people's expressions changed on the rostrum. The ones with the blackest faces were Xu Qianran, and the Hall Master of the illustrious Virtue Hall, Jing Hongchen. "What's this about, Hall Master Hongchen?" Xu Qianran uttered these words through the gaps between his gritted teeth. The all-terrain self-driving fortress wasn't one of the illustrious Virtue Hall's top-secret technologies, but ever since the illustrious Virtue Hall came up with the design, both the design and the hall had been personally approved by Xu Qianran as part of the Sun Moon Empire's future main military forces. They had already begun producing the fortresses in bulk. But at this moment, this military equipment that was still being treated as a secret had appeared in the Continental Elite Youth Soul Master Tournament. How could Xu Qianran not be upset? Jing Hongchen was also dumbfounded. That's not possible. Huo Yuhao was on exchange at our academy for a while, but I was always guarded against him. It's impossible for him to have obtained our core technologies and knowledge. Calm down, Your Highness. We will investigate this matter after this. It is likely to have something to do with Xian Ziwen, our chief researcher, who has deserted us. Only he could possibly have known all the data regarding the all-terrain self-driving fortress. HMPH. Xu Qianran grunted angrily and shot a dark, cold glare at Jing Hongchen. If not for the fact that the illustrious Virtue Hall's hallmaster was highly reputable, and he still had uses for him, Xu Qianran would have ended his life right away with his temper. The Snow Demon Sect's team members were also greatly astonished as they watched Huo Yuhao enter his all-terrain self-driving fortress. Everyone was filled with awe and astonishment, but Princess Wei Na's eyes sparkled. What was this toy about? It was so large and massive, and it looked like every single cannon barrel could fire something different. It wasn't hard to imagine how powerful and domineering something like this would be on the battlefield. The Heavenly Soul Empire was already one of the Tang sect's biggest customers. Huo Yuhao was a beat slower than his companions. Once he entered his fortress, the enormous sphere that was over 3 meters in diameter began to move. 8 lengthy metal legs stretched out at the same time and raised the self-driving fortress from the ground. The metal clanging sounds were clean and crisp, and not a single grinding or rubbing sound could be heard. Huo Yuhao had personally refined his all-terrain self-driving fortress with Xuanwu, and it was a lot more powerful than the ones that the Sun Moon Empire were mass-producing. This was also the main reason why Huo Yuhao had dared to expend his soul power before this, and the main reason why he still had the confidence to continue in the group battle. There were 6 sealed milk bottles that Xuanwu had personally crafted inside this fortress, all of them class 7. Every single one contained ample soul power, and together, they had enough soul power that Huo Yuhao could take part in a small battle without expending any of his own soul power. Xuanwu was the one who had come up with sealed milk bottles. Class 7 sealed milk bottles were at the highest possible class, with his current research progress. Even the illustrious Virtue Hall only had data and materials for crafting class 6 sealed milk bottles. Even though Huo Yuhao couldn't raise his fortress offensive abilities to that of a class 7 soul engineer with his 6 class 7 sealed milk bottles, he had no problem unleashing and maintaining a class 6 soul engineer's offensive prowess for a prolonged period of time. Right now, his role in his team was no longer as simple as just a control-type soul master. He was now part of his team's offensive front. 32 cannon barrels of different shapes and sizes at the top of his fortress were the first to fire. Whistling sounds could be heard as 32 orange-red spheres soared into the sky and rained down on his enemies in the distance. The fortress' 8 metal legs began to rotate rhythmically in the next moment, and it ran forward in pursuit of his teammates. Both forces were about to collide in the center, as Huo Yuhao's 32 orange-red cannon shells rained down on his opponents. The Tang sect wasn't absolutely stronger than their adversaries in terms of personal fighting strength, but the body sect would face a great task if they wanted to find someone that understood the usage of soul tools better than Huo Yuhao and Hikaitu. All 6 of the Tang sect's team, who were charging forward, halted at the same time. With Huo Yuhao's spiritual detection shared amongst everyone, they would never misjudge anything at all. Long Aotian was still in front of his entire team, and he formed a circle with his hands as an incandescent wave rippled out and swept towards the orange-red shells hammering down on them. He wanted to open a path for his team with his formidable strength. However, a peculiar scene occurred. The cannon shells paused in mid-air, and patches of blinding light erupted the moment the white air wave slammed into them. Who would have thought that Huo Yuhao's 32 cannon shells weren't an attack, but instead were flashbangs? It wasn't in line with how soul engineers typically fought. But it was this very fact, that it wasn't in line with how soul engineers typically fought, that made it easier for the results to show. The Tang sect's entire team immediately turned around and defended themselves against the flashbangs. Their opponents were caught off guard, and their entire field of view went white. This was an explosion caused by 32 flashbangs going off at the same time. There were no dead angles from the front, and 3 of the people from the body sect, who were struck by this blinding white light, exclaimed at the same time. The flashbangs didn't last for very long. The Tang sect's entire team turned around with their eyes closed in the next moment, and launched an assault on their opponents as soon as possible, with their eyes still closed. Did they even need to use their eyes? With Huo Yuhao's spiritual detection, they would never pick or recognize the wrong people even if their eyes were shut. The 8 metal legs on Huo Yuhao's fortress suddenly straightened, and pushed the entire fortress up 3 meters above the ground. Every single cannon barrel was trained on his opponents, and hundreds of different soul rays and cannons poured out and cascaded against them. Bei Bei and Xuanwu pounced forward at the same time, going straight for Long Aotian. Jiang Nan was still hidden behind Xuanwu. Huo Yuhao's plan was for the 3 of them to combine their efforts to take down Long Aotian as quickly as possible. Long Aotian was too powerful, and it would be quite a challenge for the Tang sect to win this group battle if they didn't deal with their greatest threat first. Huo Yuhao would team up with Hikaitu to suppress the rest of the Snow Demon sect's team, so that their companions would have that chance. Xiao Xiao followed closely behind Xuanwu and Bei Bei. Her tremendous 3-live soul crush cauldron appeared out of nowhere and split into 3, the 3 different cauldrons appearing behind Long Aotian. This was equivalent to isolating him, while all three cauldrons exploded with a deafening tone at the same time. Cauldron quake. Wang Donga soared high into the sky. With Huo Yuhao's forceful suppressing fire as cover, she flew soundlessly and discreetly towards the backs of her opponents. Her target was Wei Na. The Tang sect's explosive movement came without warning, but everybody fell into their roles and positions as quickly as was humanly possible. They made use of Huo Yuhao's formidable flashbangs and immediately gained the upper hand. Huo Yuhao's all-terrain self-driving fortress offensive capabilities were comparable to that of a Soul Emperor operating a Soul Tool fort. Furthermore, he could maintain his fortress for an even longer time. Hundreds of soul rays pressed down like a waterfall, and even the body sect's most powerful individuals had to react with everything they had. Wang Yangfeng was following closely behind Long Aotian. His arms instantly swelled up at this moment, resembling two enormous shields as they blocked the soul rays coming straight for them. He maintained this stance for 3 seconds, and greenish bronze light flickered from behind his back. He was forced to unleash his body soul's second awakening. He Kaitu also released more than 10 different soul tools at the same time, and worked together with Huo Yuhao to suppress their opponents. In addition to Xiao Xiao's isolating efforts, there was no question that Long Aotian had been separated from his teammates. The audience beneath the competition stage were also temporarily blinded by the powerful flashbangs, and their vision was only gradually coming back to them. Meanwhile, a series of collisions could be heard from the competition stage. Boom. Something that absolutely astounded the Tang sect's entire team occurred with 3 intense impacts. Bei Bei, Shu Sansha, and Jiang Nan Nan flew backwards one after another, while Long Aotian, who they were besieging at the same time, stood in the same spot. He turned around and swung his incandescent arms toward Xiao Xiao. How was that possible? This video will end here.